Welcome to Marketing with Confidence. I'm your host, Marianne Amies. We're going to be talking all things digital and online marketing for business owners and marketing professionals. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by your digital marketing, be sure to listen along and you'll hear tips, interviews and more that will give you the confidence to create marketing you love. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing with Confidence. Today, we're going to talk about the power of personal brands for small business. The rise of personal branding has really, taken over in the last maybe 5 years around that as social media has become more, human and more approachable. I often get asked about Instagram and, is the aesthetic of the profile still, as important as it once was deemed? And to be honest, we see that most social media platforms are moving to a more organic and real feeling, a more unedited style. I mean, certainly with the rise of TikTok, we can see that the real, the raw, largely unedited, that is the content that's really resonating with people right now. And, this then leads us into personal brands and the impact that we as a face behind a brand can have. Personal branding is an area, that some business owners struggle with. And, the other week in our monthly content meeting, my team and I were discussing, is it possible to build a business now without some sort of personal branding? A small business is the key to success in the current market, really having a face to the brand. And so I wanted to jump on today and talk a little bit more about the power of personal branding and also, give some alternate thoughts of what to do if you can't attach a personal identity to your brand and how you can still leverage and maximize. I wrote an episode and recorded it. I think it might be one of my first episodes, maybe episode 3 or episode 4. And it was all about you, the marketing vehicle. And in this episode, I discussed how it can be so challenging to put yourself in front of the camera. It can be so challenging to put yourself at the forefront of your brand because you, the person, may not have that extroverted character, or you, the person, doesn't want to draw attention to yourself. But we almost become the marketing vehicle of our businesses. And it's sort of separating identities, almost like an actor on stage would. And you, the marketing vehicle, might need to step up and be forefront of that brand identity. And there's a power in it, and there's certainly a reward in it. When I think about personal branding, I think right now it's the biggest USP, so unique selling point, that small businesses have. It's where we can go toe-to-toe with big brands in a way that they just can't access the market. If we think of, look at my business, I, in the last year and a half, have committed to building my personal brand alongside my agency brand. And, that's 12 years after, building an agency and largely hiding behind it, that I've decided to step out and own my expertise and use my personal brand to, legitimize my agency, and vice versa, use my agency to legitimize my personal brand. If I compare that to a huge marketing agency, they are largely faceless. You might think of, say, even advertising agencies like Saatchi and Saatchi. They're so big, but they're largely faceless. We don't think of the person behind it. We don't necessarily see them on social media talking about their journey or their struggles or their team or their vision. So we don't connect to them the same way. And to be honest, it's the same across all industries. If you're a boutique accounting firm and you are the owner, the conversations that you have, the voice of authority that you can create is completely different to KPMG that has 75,000 partners. They become faceless organizations. If you are a candle maker, yes, Glasshouse Candles has an amazing, huge reputation, but there's no human connection. There's no personal story. you're a candle maker with a beautiful personal story, there's an opportunity for me to connect with that story, buying into you and therefore buying into your brand. So personal branding is about telling the story of the people. It's about humanizing brands. It's about being more, bringing the touch points back to the heart almost, rather than just this is the benefit I provide. It's this is my story and this is how I got here. And so when we build that personal brand alongside our physical brand, there's a glow on both parties. And, we can think of different beauty products and different, brands in the wellness space. A great example is JS Health. So when JS Health started, it was very much about her journey and about, her coming up with these vitamins and supplements because of her own health and her own needs. And we bought into her story. As the brand has grown, she can pull back from being, the core face of the brand if she needs to. But that personal story of a woman, having the need and seeking a solution for it is what we buy into. It's the same way that, things like Sam Wood's 28 Days with Sam Wood, it was his personal brand. He did The Bachelor. We kind of got some brand awareness of him as a person. And then he goes on to build this fitness empire, but we're bought into him as well as the business. And so, it means from the ground up, there's that personal connection. We're kind of in it for multiple reasons. So when we're looking to build a personal brand, I guess the stumbling point for most business owners is it does mean putting your face out there. And it surprises my clients when I tell them that I feel discomfort with it. I mean, I love speaking, obviously. I could speak on a stage, and I have, to thousands of people. And honestly, it doesn't rattle me. I love it. It energizes me. But talking to my camera on my phone and engaging with my own reflection, it stumbles me. And I also, I forget to do it. I don't prioritize it. I feel self-conscious. So, there's so many barriers for myself. And I know that I'm quite an extroverted, confident person. So I can understand when business owners look at me and their face just goes gray when I say you have to get on the camera. I'm working with a new skincare brand at the moment, and it's developed by a doctor. And he's older now. And every meeting I bring up the fact that I'm going to need him to be in some photos and some videos. And every single meeting he's like, no, absolutely not. And his wife is, has been in the business with him, and she agrees with me. And I just sort of have to chip away. So every single meeting I just bring it up and I say, right, so when we launch, and obviously, we're going to need you in some photos and videos. And I just sort of keep writing and don't let him have any time to dispute it. Because I know, and what I've explained to him is that's the power. The personal brand brings connection. It brings advocacy. If I can buy into you as a person and you feel credible and trustworthy and authentic, I'm already so much more engaged with your brand than if it's just a beautiful logo and packaging. So building a brand, a personal brand, is about opening yourself up. It's about being present. It's about standing for something. So, whatever your product or service may be, you need to get really clear on your personal why. Channel your Simon Sinek and look at your why. Like, why did you go down this path? What is the story of it? What is your purpose? What drives you? What's your passion? What was your struggle? What was your, what was your turning point? What is the relatable part of your story that your target market will engage with? It's also about what's your voice of authority? What do you want to be known as? What does your business represent you as being the best of, or you as being the expert in? I myself, I want to help people maximize their digital marketing through strategy and performance tracking. So that's my position of authority. I want to build my voice around the fact that, I've got decades of marketing experience, and strategy and performance tracking it's almost the start and the end of the marketing cycle. They are what I want to help other people to maximize and to some way understand. So, you might, again, if we think of the candle maker, your voice of authority might be about sustainability. So it might be that you want to be known as a candle maker that makes sustainable choices. Or again, if you're the accounting firm example, your voice of authority may be that that understanding your profit and loss is needs to be at the forefront of every business owner's mind, or that not non-numbers people can achieve financial literacy in their business. So whatever it might be, you need to find your voice of authority, and then you need to create content that supports it. So when we think of building our personal brand, again, I feel like a broken record sometimes, but it won't surprise you. We need to start with our target market. Who are we wanting to market to, and what parts of our story are going to be most relevant to them? Then, leveraging that personal brand as a small business is about creating those moments of connection. So using your social media to not just showcase your product, to not just showcase your service, but to build a one-to-one relationship or a one-to-many relationship. We want our target market to feel like they've got that access to us, that, we're a DM away if they have a question. We want them on the journey. We want them, tied into our successes and our losses. We want to tell them our struggles, and, they'll band behind us. And then we want to tell them, all the wonderful things and know that they're cheering us on. So it's really about community, and possibly, with the last 2 to 3 years that we went through, that feeling of community online is even more important. People are looking for those connections, and they're looking for, that greater sense of community, of the tribe, of, not having a one to nothing social media engagement experience, mindless scrolling, liking. They want to actually reply to a story and then have that, that business reply back to them, or comment on a post and have a really human reply come back, rather than something that's a little bit, corporate standard lines, and which again comes back to that big brand versus small brand competitive advantage that we have as small business owners. We can choose our tone of voice to be whatever we want. We can be as funny as we want. We can be as irreverent as we want. We don't have to conform to the ideals of that big corporate. We can be as human as we want. And I can tell you one thing, the more human that you are, the more that community will build. So, leveraging your personal brand also means, looking for collaborations and partnerships where other businesses that leverage their personal brands are a great fit. It's about getting out there and, networking and going to events and, putting your personal brand in that real life scenario and building, those connections. It's about building, as I said before, trust, credibility, and customer loyalty. Nothing does that more than a one-to-one relationship. And another interesting story, I had a client sort of say to me, they haven't done so well online. They've launched their business online and they're just finding their sales aren't as great online. But when they were at the markets, they did really well, and they would sell really well at markets. And this is a client that doesn't feel comfortable pursuing a personal brand. And we have discussed that at length. And I pointed out, what do you think the difference is between when you're at markets and when you're online? And they sort of said, oh, I don't, not sure, don't know. And I said, I think it might be you, at a market, everyone's having a one-to-one relationship with you. They're seeing your passion. They're hearing your story. They're, seeing your engagement with your products. Online, they don't get any of that. And, again, it just shows that personal brand, there's nothing quite like it. And that's why small business can leverage and maximize that. So I guess, this then poses the question, what do you do if you don't want to or can't, or so like admittedly some people can't build a personal brand because they may still be in a corporate career and they're building their small business on the side, and it's not appropriate for them to start talking about it yet. And I've definitely worked with a lot of clients in that space. And there's other clients where, and other people, and this might be you, where the confidence and the appetite for putting yourself to camera and being vulnerable and, share, it's just not for you. And to be honest, that's okay. As much as this is an opportunity, there are other ways. And I do really passionately believe in personal branding, but like everything, we just have to find different strategies if that's not for you. And I do think that there's a missed opportunity, but there's definitely other things that we can do. So if you want to build your brand without a personal brand component, some top tips for you would be to invest heavily in content creators. So using content creators, and I did a great podcast with Alex Mills a few weeks back about content creators, and he had amazing tips. So please go and listen to that on how to find content creators to work with. But what content creators can give you is UGC, and UGC is user-generated content. And generally, they will put their faces to it. So these are people that are building their personal brands. And so if you can get your product or your service in their hands, they can then talk about it. And if you negotiate usage of their posts and their content, then you've got some really great human content that you can start sharing. So the perfect thing is then you've got like face to camera content, you've got people talking about it. There's advocacy in that because those people have built up their audiences, they've built up trust. And if they've already attracted your target market, it's a bit of a shortcut for you to get your brand in front of your target market with advocacy using those content creators. So I would heavily encourage you to pull through content creators. Depending on your budget, you could, number 2, consider a brand ambassador. So assigning a face, of your business. So a content creator based on a longer relationship, for example, a 6-month relationship, where they're, on a longer term of either using your services or using your product, and working with you and documenting that and sharing content about that. In the example of the skincare business, definitely a strategy that I've put forward is to try work with a longer term ambassador who can talk about the journey with the product, who can showcase skin beforehand, talk about skin during, map out changes, map out people's responses, showcase how easy it is to use the brand, showcase them traveling with the simple products with them, all that sort of stuff over a longer period, builds a more genuine response as well. Sometimes the in and out content creator style content can be a bit ad hoc, and I think it works well for things like fashion and makeup but if there's a longer process time, so like skincare or even like a service, like a HR consultant or something like that, you would want a longer run of content to show that legitimacy and build that story as well. So a third idea, if personal branding is off the table for you, would be to think about how you can humanize your content without your face. So again, with my skincare client this week, I was talking about Rob the dentist. I don't know if anyone remembers Rob the dentist who couldn't show his face on TV back in the 80s or 90s. So, how can you have your hands in posts? How can you have a back 3/4 shot of you? If you're not comfortable to talk to camera, are you comfortable to be in the background? A lot of reels that work really well are when you just record yourself doing something and have a voiceover or even just a text overlay on top. That works really well on TikTok as well, like the get ready with me or see a day in my life, those sorts of things. You don't have to talk to the camera. You just set yourself up on a tripod. And if you set it on time lapse, and you record for half an hour, you only end up with about a minute, and it's so quick. And, it does still feel personal, but it might not feel as invasive for you as well. But, think about how you can use some first person captions coupled with elements of yourself within it that don't involve perhaps direct face to camera as well. So we still get a feeling of you and who you are, but you don't have that invasiveness of direct to camera if that's a concern for you. And then the last idea, or the last point, I guess, if you can't or aren't comfortable with building your personal brand, is to invest more heavily in ads. I've been speaking to a lot of clients lately about their marketing strategy and saying, essentially we've got two approaches to growth. We have time or we have money. So if we have time, we can spend less money at once and know that growth will just take a longer amount of time. So a slow and steady growth. If we don't have time, so we need results fast, then we need money. And we need money because we can accelerate our growth through paid ads and through paid marketing strategies a lot faster than we can with organic only. So if personal branding is not an avenue for you, I would absolutely consider that your budget may need to involve more ads. And maybe that's Google ads, maybe that's social ads. It would very much depend on your target market. And also there's a podcast episode a little back on Google ads versus social ads and who they could be right for. So I'd encourage you to listen to that. But, it's a way to get directly to your target market. If you had that content creator UGC, that's amazing to put back through social ads to build some of this credibility and trust. If you don't, thinking about how you can build connection and really talk to your target market in pure alignment and let them understand that you can meet their needs, that you can create pleasure points for them as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode on, establishing and the power of a personal brand. And I hope there's some good pointers in there for people that aren't ready to step into a personal brand. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram and tell me where you're at with your personal brand and what you're thinking about after this episode. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode. If you don't want to miss one, make sure you subscribe to the show in your podcast app. And if you love it, be sure to share it with friends and colleagues who you think could benefit from increasing their digital marketing confidence. Want more? Head to maryanneamies.com to find out how you can work with me directly, to reach out to have me speak at your event, or to grab yourself some free resources.